bother you, never bother me. I feel happy and fine, ha-ha! Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time. Having got a lot, I don't need a lot, coffee's only a dime. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Hey everyone, I am 22 Tiger Dude, and I'm here to review the first ever episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. And the user who requested me to review Help Wanted, not Tea at the Treedome and Reef Blower, just Help Wanted, was requested by... By the way, you guys, my very good buddy J53518 has reviewed the SpongeBob episode himself. Just Help Wanted, though. He didn't do Reef Blower and Tea at the Treedome, which I find weird he didn't do, but oh well. But if you guys want to go ahead and check out his review for Just Help Wanted, the link to his review will be below, and comment on his video, tell him what you thought of the episode, and tell him what you think of his channel overall.
So let's review the first episode. Episode 1, Help Wanted, from 1998. Directed by Steven Hillenburg. Let's talk about the plot a bit. What is the plot, J5?
But anyways, here's my review for Help Wanted, and of course, Help Wanted is about when SpongeBob wants to apply for the Krusty Krab because it's his dream job. And it's a simple plot for the first one. I like the fact that it started out simple. Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob to find this little spatula. They over-exaggerate, so they find a way for him to never work. Mainly squared, but of course Mr. Krabs is kind of in on it too. And then a busload of these anchovies are taking over the Krusty Krab. It's like an anchovy invasion, if you ask me. But that's pretty much all I could describe from here. And this was only a 7-minute episode, because there was another episode after this that was 3 minutes long. So yeah. And how's the start of this episode? How's the start of this whole series? My favorite cartoon of all time? I love it. This is a very well done episode. Help Wanted is an original, fresh, and very funny episode. The start of SpongeBob's career to the Krusty Krab, it was just so amazing. I love it. And the introduction of Squidward, Mr. Krabs, and although Patrick barely was in this first episode, his introduction was good as well. So pretty much all the main characters, except for one, didn't get introduced until in the third pairing of this first episode. And you're going to see my review for that in a bit. But there's nothing much for me to say, really. But it's simple. Nothing too much goes on. It's just a well-done, hilarious, fresh first episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. That's really all I have to say about it, because there's not really too much for me to talk about. But I really love it. Every moment of it is just enjoyable. And it's just very unique in its own way. And I'm happy to give the first SpongeBob episode a 10 out of 10. So this one was immediately after Help Wanted. It's a 3-minute episode, so yeah, nothing much for me to really talk about here, so I'm going to probably just keep this part short. But for Reef Blower, it's a silent episode. You don't get your dialogue. You do get dialogue like once or twice, but it's all in subtitles, like kind of like that. So this episode, in my opinion, it was great, but not really enough. Like, I know it's meant to be a short episode because I'm sure that was the writer's creative process, but it's just it's a great episode. I really enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it as much as Help Wanted, and that's because there's nothing for me to in this episode for me to really say. It's the best of the best. And I think, even though I really like the fact that the writers kept it short, I think if it was a longer episode, it could have been a better episode for me. Add a little more funny situations along the way. I think it could be better. It's enjoyable. The fact that it's silent. And of course, that one part where SpongeBob sucks all the water out of Bikini Bottom and Squidward's suffocating is funny as hell. No doubt about it. Alright, so not much really to talk about. It's silent. It's a 3-minute episode. But overall, the best and highest I'm going to give this episode because it was short and not really much happens to really stand up in that bar. But I'm going to go ahead and give this episode at 8.5 out of 10. It's the highest I could actually go just for a short episode like this. But you know what? It's really enjoyable. Now we go into tea at the Treedome. And we get introduced to someone. I'll give you a hint. She wears a white suit, flower on her helmet, and she's literally right next to me in this SpongeBob poster I have right here. I'll just point out to you in case you don't know. Her. We get introduced to her. Sandy Cheeks, the hiya and hoo-ha squirrel. Alright, so here's pretty much the plot of Tea at the Treedome. Alright, so Tea at the Treedome is when SpongeBob, he's jellyfishing. One day he sees a squirrel named Sandy Cheeks. She's attacking a clam, a giant clam. And SpongeBob was trying to do something to help her. And then, after the situation of taking care of this giant clam, SpongeBob and Sandy, they introduce themselves to each other, and Sandy invites SpongeBob over at the Treedome for them to know each other better and, become more friends. I really enjoy this episode. A little better than Reef Blower. Like I said, just because it was a 3-minute episode. I enjoy this episode. I just don't enjoy it as much as Help Wanted. Help Wanted is still the best one out of the 3 pairings in this first ever episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. But it's a funny episode. It's enjoyable. Storyline's nicely written as well. The flaws I did have with the episodes, though, is that it bores me a little in a couple of parts. It just doesn't feel as fun as Help Wanted did. But overall, it's a funny episode. It's enjoyable. And really not much for me to really talk about here, even though it is at its normal 11-minute format stand. But, it's simple, just like Reef Blower and Help Wanted. So I can't really say what big thing happened, but the best I could say is that it just had some parts that made me laugh. The introduction to Sandy, how they introduced her, was well done. And yeah, you just get introduced to a squirrel who wears a bikini in her Treedome and wears a suit when she goes outside underwater. But it's handled well. So, Tea at the Treedome, I really enjoy it, and I'm going to go ahead and give this episode a 9 out of 10. Subscribe to my channel. Comment to give me your thoughts on the SpongeBob episode. like and share this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and don't forget that I will always have Tiger Power!